You were in Afghanistan in 2002. You see something coming out of the cave.
Ever thought soldiers, trained for the worst, are unshakable? Think again. What happens when those trained for human combat come face to face with something not so human? Today we're delving deep into spine-chilling tales, from military encounters with towering giants to baffling run-ins with creatures that science has yet to name. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. Number 1. Orang Pendec encounter. Ever heard of a short person lurking in the woods of Sumatra, Indonesia? No, it's not what you're thinking. For almost a century, locals have whispered tales of the mysterious Orang Pendec, an elusive red-furred creature that walks on 2 legs, almost like us, but stands just about 4 feet tall. Its name, straight from the Indonesian language, literally translates to, yep, you guessed it, short person. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite many adventurers trekking through the dense forests trying to find proof, concrete evidence has always been as elusive as the creature itself. Just a handful of hazy photographs, some mysterious hairs, and recently, a peculiar footage that's been buzzing in Indonesia. A viewer sent it my way, and let's just say it's intriguing. Filmed in an undisclosed forest near Aceh, the footage is rather uncanny. Is it a staged act, or perhaps just a local tribesman? Or could it actually be our first video glimpse of the legendary Orang Pendec? Only time, and maybe more footage, will tell. Number 2. U.S. Army versus towering giant. Can you imagine being on a routine patrol in the mountains of Kandahar, Afghanistan, and stumbling upon a giant? Sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, right? But let's dive into this peculiar tale from 2002. So there's this squad of U.S. Army soldiers, right? They're out in the mountains doing their thing, and then radio silence. Nothing. Nada. Days go by, and there's still no word from them. Naturally, this raises alarms, and a special ops squad is dispatched to find out what happened. As they hike through the dusty, stone-laden landscape, they come across a trail. Not just any trail, mind you, but one littered with broken U.S. military equipment. And as they venture further, the scene gets grimmer. Human bones, uniforms, radios, all scattered around. It's like breadcrumbs leading them to, well, a giant cave. And outside this cave, more bones and equipment. Now, if you were in their shoes, you'd probably think, a Taliban hideout. And that's exactly what they thought. But plot twist. Out comes a giant spear from the cave, taking out one of their men. And if that wasn't shocking enough, a 15-foot giant emerges from the shadows, charging at them. The squad, in sheer disbelief and panic, fires at the creature for what feels like an eternity before it finally collapses. Now, here's where things get even weirder. The creature is airlifted out, and the special forces, they're made to sign NDAs, with their report on the incident conveniently leaving out any mention of a giant. Instead, they label it as an enemy combatant. Sneaky, right? Fast forward to 2016, and one brave soldier spills the beans on a now-deleted YouTube video. And of course, the story spreads like wildfire. People start calling into the radio show Coast to Coast AM claiming they were there and that the tale is true. But, and here's the kicker, the Department of Defense quickly denies any such incident. They even go as far as saying there's no record of a Special Forces member being killed by a giant. But wait, there's more. A soldier named Dan, who some claim was the one killed by the giant spear, did indeed die in Kandahar in 2002. But the official cause, an explosive. Now, some say this is proof that the whole giant story is a hoax. Others, they're convinced it's a cover-up, with the explosive story being a convenient excuse. So here's the million-dollar question. Was it really a giant, or just a tall tale? What's your take on this? And remember, sometimes truth can be stranger than fiction. Number 3, unidentified creature during Vietnam War. Have you ever stumbled upon tales as wild and elusive as those of Yeti or Bigfoot, but originating from the thick, untamed forests of Vietnam, Laos, and Borneo? Meet the Boyzone, or as the Vietnamese endearingly call them, the people of the forest or wild man. Standing tall at nearly 6 feet, these bipedal beings sport a unique appearance, a lush coat of hair ranging from browns to grays, with bald patches strategically positioned on the head, hands, feet, and knees. Contrary to our serene image of forest dwellers, the tales from Borneo, known for its treasure trove of unique creatures, describe Boyzone as fiercely aggressive. They're known to have a particularly gory signature move, ripping out human livers. Now, the Vietnam War era in the late 60s stirred the pot of these tales. As the locales favored by Khoisan became teeming with humans, sightings surged. Dive into the book, Very Crazy GI, Strange but True Stories of the Vietnam War, and you'll find an intriguing account of a U.S. soldier squad. They narrated their close encounter with a 5-foot-tall creature, covered in a red-tinged fur they named Rock Ape. But here's a tale that really takes the cake. Circa 1950, a local man ventured deep into the forest, seeking materials for crafting string, only to vanish without a trace. As days turned to years, he was given up for dead. Yet, 3 years on, he sauntered back into the village, a wild version of himself, draped in nature's garb and hair cascading down his back. And boy, did he have a story. He spun a tale of abduction by humanoid monkeys, a forced union with a female creature, and the resultant child, a human look-alike covered in hair. The village, awash with a mix of horror and curiosity, followed him to the said cave. The sight that greeted them? A gut-wrenching scene of the very child, torn apart, with no sign of the mysterious Boyzone. Number 4. Australian Yowie. Ever heard of a mysterious creature with several aliases, from Quinn Kane to Jim Brew, and Goober to the more popular Yowie? This intriguing being is said to roam the vast Australian wilderness, with its roots potentially tracing back to Aboriginal legends. Picture this, an enormous, hairy, ape-like figure, not unlike the famous Bigfoot, standing a jaw-dropping 12 feet tall. Its distinguishing features? A broad, flat nose, enormous feet, and a disposition that's usually shy, unless, of course, it feels threatened. Now, rewind to 1795. Yes, that far back, tales of Yowie encounters have been floating around since then. One particularly detailed account from 1842 offers a rather vivid picture. According to this description, indigenous Australians speak of a creature resembling a man but with long white hair cascading over its face. The real twist? Its arms unnaturally elongated end in formidable talons, and its feet point backward. So if you chanced upon its footprints, you might just be tricked into thinking it walked the other way. The Aboriginal tales paint it as a surreal, fearsome creature with an almost extraterrestrial, ape-ish demeanor. Fast forward to the 21st century, Yowie tales haven't dwindled. A standout encounter from 2010 tells of a Canberra resident's eerie rendezvous with a creature in his garden. This being was not just covered in thick hair with those signature long arms, but seemed to be attempting communication before it vanished into the woods. For all the Aussie folks tuning in, what's your take on the legendary Yowie? Fact, fiction, or a sprinkle of both? Number 5. Washed-up sea monster. Imagine taking a leisurely walk on the beach and stumbling upon a mystery. This is exactly what happened to a couple in May 2016 at Port Albert, South Wales. Excitedly pointing toward the shore, they noticed a gigantic shape, first assuming it's a massive driftwood. But as curiosity drew them closer, they found themselves standing in front of an 11-foot-long carcass of, well, that's where the story gets wild. The initial reaction was, blimey, is that a crocodile? But let's pause for a second. A croc on a British beach? It's like finding a kangaroo in Alaska. Quite a stretch. Then, the gossip mill churned out another possibility. It's probably a whale. Sounds plausible, but not entirely convincing. Soon, this beachside enigma became the talk of the town, making headlines locally and buzzing around the virtual world. From experts to enthusiasts, everyone had a take. But till now, this marine puzzle is unsolved, and the creature's identity remains veiled in ambiguity. Now, here's a fun challenge for you. Given the clues, what's your best guess on this coastal conundrum? And just remember, this isn't your usual message-in-a-bottle beach tale. All right, folks, from shadowy figures in dense forests to mysterious behemoths in our vast oceans, our world is brimming with tales and testimonies of creatures that elude our understanding. Every encounter, every story, adds another layer to the enigma of our planet's uncharted inhabitants. But whether you're a skeptic or a believer, one thing's for certain. There's so much we've yet to discover. The beauty of mystery is that it invites exploration and fuels our innate curiosity. So the next time you're out exploring the great unknown, keep your eyes peeled. Who knows, you might just have your own story to add to this ever-growing anthology of the unexplained. Until our next adventure into the cryptic corners of our world, stay curious and keep questioning. Dive deep into the stories, and always remember that the line between myth and reality is often blurrier than we think. Until then, sweet dreams, or should I say, wild dreams.